All right, welcome back to another episode of Couple With. Unfortunately, my boy Wooch couldn't make it tonight. He's got some business to attend to in Geelong, so we're going to run this solo. We are going to talk Mandalorian tonight. No fight news. We're going to come. We wanted to save that one and do it together. So, just talking Mando from last weekend. Just our thoughts. I'm with producer Doodle here, live from the couch studios. Epic setup. I love it here, and I can't wait to chat a little, Star Wars with everybody. So obviously, starting off this episode, what are we at? It's episode 5, I believe, season 2. I think that makes it episode 13 if you're following it chronologically. It's called The Jedi, and they don't waste any time in announcing that. Like, the opening sequence is basically like this foggy, like dead, burnt planet at night or close to nighttime. And you're seeing gunshots going off, and you're kind of getting an idea that there's this town that's shutting down. It's bordering up its gate. And then everyone else outside, who are the guards, are sort of shooting at some unknown target. But obviously, if you're following the show, you kind of have an idea of who it is. And then, I think most of us were expecting like a reveal for the said character, which is, spoiler ahead, Ahsoka from, going back to the Clone Wars through to Rebels. A fan favorite of a lot of people's, and to see her in live action for the first time, Rosario Dawson as the cast choice, fantastic cast choice. I had to say, just when that was announced, I thought it was an amazing cast choice for, for an actress who I've followed, especially through, I think, like all the Marvel shows on Netflix. Like, she was kind of considered this character, I can't think of her name, but she was like the night nurse, and she was kind of the recurring character in like the Daredevil and Luke Cage and the Jessica Jones. She would always kind of somehow intertwine with the hero's journey along there, and was sort of like befriended them and stuff. So I like her as an actress, and I thought, seeing her for the first time and all the makeup and stuff like that, the dual lightsabers, revealed straight away in the fog, fighting off this horde of guards that were protecting this giant gate. And all of the shots in this sequence were fucking fantastic. Like, the sound of the blades opening up for the first time, it's just, they've really worked out how to make that sound spectacular over like a sound system and stuff. The visual cues of her sort of like opening and sheathing the lightsabers and sort of like using the fog to her advantage to kind of like slice through these guards and stuff, using, like, I think she has this amazing shot of her like cutting this chunk out of a tree and then like force pushing it into another character, and then like you see the shot composition of her standing there and the tree just slowly like kind of falls down. It's just unreal. What a great way to introduce, like, because everyone who's already a Star Wars fan and who follows the Clone Wars and stuff, like, they know who this is, but like for the audience who are just following this for Mandalorian specifically, or who just never really got onto those other shows, it's a great character introduction. Like the two white lightsabers as well, which is something we haven't really seen on screen before as well, to really make it, I don't know, it gives her a really signature look and a feeling of like a real presence on screen straight away. And so she approaches this gate. It's manned. It's the character Kyle Reese, but he's much, much older now. But Michael Bean, correction there. You might know him. I didn't recognize him, but I found this out after the fact. He was Kyle Reese in the original Terminator movie. So, like, if you know your Terminator, you'd probably recognize him. I didn't at this age, but like people had pointed it out, which I think there's a cool little cameo there. And so Ahsoka approaches this gate and basically gives this person, like this woman who's kind of in charge of the town, like 1 day's notice to say, like, you give me what I want or I'm coming back and I'm hunting you guys down. And so obviously the person who's running this town, it looks like she's kind of ruling through an iron fist and has taken over this township via force, and is not like the actual mayor or whatever you want to say of this little sort of like this little outskirt town in Star Wars, you could say. But you could see that she is not the right leader of this place. So Ahsoka is sort of putting it down that, like, you better clear shop or I'm coming back tomorrow and you're going to get it. So right as this sort of happens, the next day you see Mando, he's flying from obviously last episode's. What area did? Yeah, I think it was Tatooine. So he's come from Tatooine now. Obviously, their characters are evolving over time, and like so, he's lands, approaches this same exact gate, and they let him through. I think he talks to one. Like, I mean, I love this. The look and the setting of this town is just amazing. Like, it's just another one of those great Star Wars sets that's really small. Looks kind of like they always have these kind of inspired by different architectural designs, but not. It does always kind of feel Star Warsy, but you can see that it's kind of designed off of like what Michael and Jazz, one of our other friends, said, like the Earth Kingdom from Avatar. Almost, it seems that is bordered by this gate, like this big wall. So this town looks like it is being sort of ruled down by like a lot of guards, and is under the rule of this, I want to say, Empress woman who's in charge. And so like Mandalorian, the Mando, well, we call it Mandalorian, approaches this town, sort of is going through, sort of looking for someone who's going to be able to tell him Ahsoka's whereabouts, because he has no idea where to look for her. So he ends up being cornered by a few guards and is told to come and meet this Empress lady in the town center, which is another beautiful shot too. Like, it's across this sort of like bridge across this like lake with surrounded by these sort of small flowered trees. It's a really nice setting. And she sort of tells him like, hey, I need a man of your talents. Like, obviously he's wearing the Mandalorian armor, so she knows that he's like a bounty hunter, and that like, I need you to hunt this problem that we have on the outskirts and bring her back to me. And for a reward, I'm going to give you this spear that is made out of the same metal that his armor's made out of. What did we say it was called again? Veskar. So I love that this Veskar material has never really ever been mentioned in the rest of the Star Wars universe, but suddenly in this show, like, every single planet seems to have a pretty good supply of Veskar everywhere. So that's her bargaining chip to say, like, if you can hunt this problem down, I will exchange this Veskar spear. And obviously Veskar is a very important resource in the galaxy. And he doesn't really accept. He kind of just cheekily says, you know, like, just tell me where her whereabouts are and I'll go and find her. But he never really truly says if he is or isn't going to go kill her. So then he ventures out into the wilderness, into this sort of burnt, dead landscape. It's like swampy. There's these big kind of like four-legged slug creature things that are kind of walking around. It's cool. It's a really nice setting. Like, as I said, to point out from this episode specifically, like just everything in it, like the shot composition, the landscapes. Obviously it's ugly landscape, but like the way that they frame it all, it's just fantastic. Like, every single shot is just so beautifully filmed. I have to take my hat off to Dave Filoni directing this episode. Obviously he would have to be at the mantle of this episode because it is Ahsoka's introduction, and he was sort of co-creator of her character from the Clone Wars. And yeah, so he gets a little bit further out into this wasteland and stops off because I think he detects something on one of his radars or something like that, and he gets his little bullshit telescope out. I don't really know about that. Like, I like he has all these. He's got like, what is it, like the heat vision, kind of like the Predator, in this helmet, but he can't zoom in. It makes kind of no sense. Like, he has to use a separate object, like a telescope, to look further into the distance when he's wearing like a helmet. I don't know. Tan me up in the comments about that, but like, I think it's kind of a little bit silly. Who knows? And yeah, so then obviously he thinks it's a false alarm. She confronts him. They have a little battle. This battle is fucking excellent too. It's like 10 seconds of like, hey, Mandalorian and Jedi were like sworn enemies back in the day in their primes, and like, this shows you just straight up that, like, you know, these two specific races are the elite of the galaxy, and they prove it just in like a little 10-second scuffle. You're like, damn, these two know what it's about. And like, you can see Mando's Veskar armor is able to actually deflect the lightsaber blades, which is something we haven't really seen before. Like, we knew that he could deflect laser blasts, but like, to know that it can also like repel lightsabers as well is fucking awesome. So like, he deflects a lot of her shots with his armor, and they basically stop fighting because what is it? He says her name. He said like, Ahsoka Tano, like I'm here to, I know who you are. I need you to have a look at something. Like I'm here to see you about a specific subject. And then she's like, well, I hope it's that. And then she points to obviously Baby Yoda, and then things calm down a little bit. She sits down. It's another beautiful shot of her sort of sitting next to a little lantern, communicating with Baby Yoda through the Force, whilst Mando sort of just patrols the perimeter. Lovely landscape shot there of them sort of just in the foreground and the moon behind them. It's just awesome. It's just such a well-directed episode. And so you find out, so he comes over and sort of asks her about, can you communicate with him? Can you understand what he says? And she says, yes, like I can understand through the Force. And she basically says that his name is Grogu. When I first heard it, I thought she said Goku. So I was like, what are they doing? So not Baby Yoda anymore. I think almost everyone's still going to just call him Baby Yoda. Like the name just is kind of stuck now. Grogu, I don't know. But it's really cool because when she says Grogu, like he has this like immediate reaction, like he knows his name. And it's really cute. Like every time Mando says Grogu, he like looks up at the camera with the big googly eyes. It's cute, so cute. And she basically says like he was on Coruscant training with the rest of the the Jedi before the attack, before Anakin and the rest of the clone troopers. So he was there when Order 66 happened, and he was apparently smuggled out of the temple without anyone knowing. So that also maybe gives connection to the fact that he is potentially the offspring of Yoda. As she points out, that I've never seen another one of his species except for Master Yoda. And yeah, so that he is basically... Grogu has suppressed a lot of his Force abilities because he's had to stay in hiding, and it's been a long time. It's obviously, probably more than about 50 years since that event happened. But it's awesome finding out a little bit more about this character's backstory, specifically saying that like he can communicate, he has a name, he's got a little bit of history there, and that he also has developed a really strong bond with the Mandalorian and does consider him like a father figure. Mando says to Ahsoka, like, I was tasked to bring him here to you to be trained. And she says, well, I need to test his abilities. The first thing that she does is, uses a simple, can you take this rock? So she obviously uses the Force, pushes the rock over to Grogu to catch, and then asks him to return it. He does not do that. And then she asks Mando if he could do the same task. And then, Grogu doesn't really listen to him either, but she does specify that, you want to really use his name and really try and communicate with him like he's, your friend or like a real person, and not just like an infant or like some creature. Like really put some meaning into it, like really try and communicate with him correctly and see if he will. So Mando does take that little ball that Grogu was mucking around with earlier from the ship and asks him like nicely, using his actual name, to, hey, like, take the ball from my hand, to which he does, sap it across a lot more, like, well, not violently, but a lot more, like, with a lot more force, no pun intended, and captures the ball. So that, like, training him is going to probably require a lot more of Mando's help than, what Ahsoka can really teach for him. Right there from that scene, he basically says, like, she says, like, I can't really train him. He's made a bond with you, so like I can't really. It's going to be difficult for me to train him. And he's like, well, I was tasked by the Empress of this town to come and kill you. And this is where shit picks up, because they leave Grogu on the ship. Yet again, another annoying thing for me about this show is when he just leaves the baby lying around, or just like leaves him on the ship and whatever. I'm like, earlier in the show, Mando specifically says, where I go, he goes, right? And a lot of the time, where he goes, the baby does not go with him. So, this is not the way in my eyes. This is not the way. Where he, you can't do that. It's a little irritating when you specify that earlier on in the show, and then you suddenly just start leaving the baby with whoever left, right, and center. So they go to this town, and this is where shit starts to pick up, because Ahsoka gets back to that gate, and they see her running up, and then she like force jumps like way up onto this wall and starts like hacking away at the guards. They sound the alarm on the big bell, and she just slices this thing like a hot knife through butter, killing someone and cutting the bell down too. and then just jumps down into this town center, and just, man, the shot is perfect of like all the lanterns kind of like whistling in the wind. It's all like foggy, and she's sort of just standing there looking badass. And then she slowly sort of approaches the temple, and as she's going along, Mando sort of joins in, and they both kind of team up and take out all these guards. And eventually, once she clears them all out, the choreography for her lightsaber dueling as well is just epic too. Like, they really put an emphasis on her being, standing out as her own lightsaber specialist and duelist, using the, two blades, taking out all these guards in a lot of spectacular ways. They have the quintessential like Ahsoka draw as well of the lightsabers. They have this shot of her like sort of pop up out of nowhere and just sort of like slice the two blades open like that. God damn, the shot is amazing. So she eventually gets into this town center and confronts this Empress lady, whilst Mando is sort of just left out there after all the guards are cleared out, standing with this guy who we mentioned earlier. What's his name again? Something Bean? Michael Bean's character? And this is a cool little sequence because they have Ahsoka goes and confronts this Empress, and the Empress is going to face her with the spear. And meanwhile, Mando is sort of just cleared out the town, and now he's just kind of having like a Mexican standoff in the middle of this town, like waiting to see what happens with their duel outside, and he's just kind of having small talk. He's kind of providing all like the dialogue here, where they're just sort of saying like, so, both of them having a fight, huh? And he's like, yep. It's like, well, I guess if whoever wins, like, it's such a funny dialogue exchange because they're not doing anything. They're just listening to the battle, and they're kind of working out, well, whichever one of who we've joined with wins basically means that like the other one's gonna have to give up or like surrender. So I think they're just hoping that whoever they're with is the one who is on the winning end of this duel. So they have this, Ahsoka and this Empress have this epic kind of like, I want to say it's a duel, but they have like a little test first. Like they kind of test it out. It's a really nice shot of them sort of like meeting up, and the Empress is sort of like, all right, well, you want to get down, we can get down. And Ahsoka's like, come on, dude, I'm a fucking Jedi. You know what I mean? Let's go. And so these two start throwing down in this nice setting with the water around on this like nice bridge. It's very reminiscent to me of Kill Bill, which I know obviously Kill Bill probably takes a lot of inspiration from other like classic Asian kung fu / like combat movies from like years and years ago. Obviously Tarantino's inspired by a lot of old film, so this to me seems like it is kind of inspired like that. It's got a really cool intimate feel to it. So like there's not a lot of talk between these two. Like these two kind of test each other out first, and then they start to get really down into it, and like it's kind of like Mando and Michael Bean's character are kind of just providing not the comic relief necessarily, but they're providing the dialogue in between hearing it from behind the gate. It's just a really well thought out sequence. And so basically Ahsoka wins this duel, makes her surrender. She knocks the spear out of her hand and doesn't kill her, but she defeats her. And then basically once Mando and not Kyle Reese hear that her spears hit the ground, he's like, well, I guess she lost. I'm surrendering now. And he goes to put the gun down and pull a cheeky. And as he lowers this gun that he's holding down, he tries to pull the pistol out and pull a fucking cheeky quick one on Mando, who obviously just lights him up. Too quick, man. Just bang. Perfect. So then I think, is it right after that? So the other character who didn't really get a lot of explanation or exposition in this show, they kind of reveal it after. He seems to be the town leader before he was overthrown, sort of comes back out and goes to congratulate Mando on, successfully like relieving the town of this rule. And right as he goes to do it, another droid is sort of up on this rooftop about to like jump him, and he points him out. So Mando obviously does the quick spin around, quick draw, bang again, knocks him off the roof. Perfect aim. None of that bullshit stormtrooper aim there. He's well trained, as you can see. And then so it cuts back to Ahsoka asking this woman, "Where's your leader?" and then she name drops, where is this Grand Admiral Thrawn, who I believe is a character from the Clone Wars. I'm not actually too sure on that. I'm assuming that they're just carrying a lot of those. It is Dave Filoni, after all, probably carrying over a lot of the plot lines from those earlier shows to kind of tie it all together instead of just making a new threat entirely. So once we find out this name drop, like obviously the town has been relinquished of this threat. They start celebrating. This other character whose name isn't revealed is rewarded back with his position as the town leader. And as they're sort of walking out of the gates, that has this really nice like flute piece come over the yeah, it's nice. It kind of sounds like something out of Zelda almost, flute or some sort of like clarinet or something like that. It's just this nice little like tune that plays, and she sort of is explaining like, hey, I won this spear and it was promised to you. And Mando sort of initially refuses. He's like, no, like I didn't earn it, it's not mine or whatever. She's like, no, well, I have no use for it, so like you can have this, take this spear. So which is, to me, it feels yet again like another video game-esque mission reward. Like it feels like the show has had a lot of these sort of moments where it does feel like you're taking side quests as a character in a game, and you go and complete the side quest, and this is your mission reward. So like he obviously slowly accumulates different weapons over the series, and like the jetpack and different better armor. I love it. Like how the show plays out, with, as a lot of people seem to complain about, that it's not following like a specific storyline. A lot, it always kind of seems to jolt off into these little side missions and like one-off episodes that aren't really part of the overall plot. I don't mind that, because it feels to me how I like to play my video games, like your Skyrims and your Witches and stuff like that, where I like to go off and explore the world that I'm in and like build my armor sets up and, you know, get stronger weapons and get acclimated with the whole universe, and then come back once I'm sort of geared up and ready to go. Come back to the main quest and start, you know, slashing down fools. So I feel like this is similar in that sense, where Mando yet again has got another kind of quest reward with this epic spear now. And so he is pretty much at the end here with the child. He's sort of saying like, all right, well, I'll leave the child with Ahsoka to be trained, and I'm going to sort of jettison off. And so once he gets back to the ship, he kind of has a little moment there with Baby Yoda with this nice flute piece playing over. So it's kind of a little bit sad and emotional touch. But I think we all kind of knew like this wasn't going to be the end. So like he goes to sort of give Grogu to Ahsoka, and she says like, hey, like maybe, I don't know, like maybe we should let the baby decide like who he wants to stay with. Like, does he want to come and stay and train with me, or should he just stay with you and whatnot? And so the baby, well, Grogu, I keep saying baby. I'm so used to saying Baby Yoda, but like Grogu himself sort of says like, you know, I'm not leaving. I'm going to stay with Mando. And so she says like, okay, you need to take him to this planet in a star system somewhere called Typhon, if I'm not mistaken. And it's supposedly a planet that's very in touch with, like very strong with the Force. And there's some old Jedi temple there that apparently if he goes to, he can go and place Grogu on this seeing stone, and maybe it'll send out some sort of Force signal that may allow other Jedi in the galaxy who may still be around, who haven't been hunted down from the Empire's reign, may sort of hear his call and feel his Force presence and come looking for him as a beacon, I guess you could say. And hopefully, yeah, maybe someone will come and emerge and be able to train him and take him off Mando's hands so he can get back to being a fucking scallywag or whatever it is he does. So be interesting to see what they do with that, whether or not that invites other Jedi who have maybe come from the Clone Wars too, who are still around. Maybe someone from Rebels too. Who knows? Like just someone else who was Force sensitive, who may have trained in the arts of the Force. And yeah, I'm hoping to see maybe some more Jedi included in the show. So overall, in a review, obviously I've just laid it out pretty much the whole episode here, but what my overall thoughts are is that this is by far the best episode of the show. I could not tell you how like almost every scene I was just geeking out so hard. The thing about Mando, especially from the last few years. I lost touch with my fandom as a Star Wars fan. Like, I grew up a Star Wars fan. I grew up watching the original trilogy. The first movie I ever saw in the cinemas, from my memory, was Phantom Menace. So, like, I have a nostalgic attachment to a lot of those movies. I'm not the biggest fan of the prequels, but I did grow up kind of watching them, so I know a lot of people of my generation as well. Like, a lot of my friends really love those movies, despite their flaws. And so once Disney kind of took over this mantle and started pumping out these sequels, lost touch. I'm not gonna lie. I enjoyed 7, but after episode 8, and I think episode 8 in itself is just another whole video on its own we could do, of just how bad that movie is. And just it after viewing that in the cinemas, it actually kind of killed my inner fan for Star Wars. After watching that, I didn't want to watch anything Star Wars again for a long time. Like, Han Solo came out, I had no interest in watching it. Episode 9 I didn't watch when it came out. I watched it after the fact because friends just like, nah, come on, you have to watch how the story ends. I was like, I really don't care. Like, that movie was so bad. And then ever since I started watching Mando, they just do everything right in this show. Like, yeah, it does go off a little bit. It doesn't kind of stay on cue with its story, but I like that personally. I really do like it's the way it has its narrative. Very simple, basic story beats. Nothing too complicated. No giant, big overall story that's so convoluted and all these unknown characters that are just, for if I were to make an example, it pays off in the end. But Game of Thrones season 1 is a rough ride for a lot of people who want to try and get into a great show, just because there are so many things happening all at once. It's just hard to keep track. This is not like that. You're following Mando and Yodi, who I ended, Grogu. I ended up calling him Yodi throughout most of the show, but it's very easily digestible. It stays true to a lot of the things you love about Star Wars. There's so many Easter eggs. It's just a really lovable protagonist. I could not recommend this show higher. It's a fantastic watch. This episode, as I said, it's episode 13, I think we said. You definitely, if you're not watching this show, shame on you. Even if you're not a Star Wars fan, watch this show. It is fantastic. It's everything that you want in a TV show and more, especially for, as I said, for someone who had an inner Star Wars fan growing up and kind of lost touch with it as an adult with these new sequels that they put out. Going back to this makes me feel how I felt when I was watching Star Wars for the first time, and I really find it easy to attach to these characters specifically. And I love where the story's going. I love it. I love watching all these new environments that they're bringing, like everything they're doing in the show, from all the new planets that you go to, all the new locations, all of the cinematography that they're doing on this new soundstage, in the studio that they're filming on, all the characters that they're bringing in. Like Mandalorian, I think it's streaming out every Friday on Disney Plus. It's definitely worth a watch. It's only 45 to 50-minute episodes. Let us know what you think in the comments too, like what your thoughts on the show are. Let us know what you think of the production here. Let us know just anything, any questions, anything that we can improve on, anything that I might have missed in the review. Just come and definitely check out the channel, like and subscribe. Come and check out Live from the Couch. Michael's got a lot of great music coming out of this studio, a lot of up-and-coming artists and talent from the local scene here in, in Victoria and the, southeastern suburbs. Yeah, and thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed.